Okay, right back at you. And the third element in this four-part approach to classroom vocabulary instruction is teaching vocabulary for application. I think this is kind of unique. It's something that I'm working very actively on. I've got a manuscript in progress right now. I wish it was further along, thought it kind of would be, and I'd be able to share it with you as a reading text for the class. But nonetheless, I think this is really cool stuff and a little bit unique. And what this does is recognize that there are sort of, again, degrees of kind of intensity of instruction, and that there are differences in sort of types of words and sets of words in terms of the intensity of instruction that they deserve and the role that they play in students' academic learning. Okay, in teaching for application, this is the most intense level of instruction that we provide in the VALE approach. So this specifically targets very small sets of words that we feel have tremendous value, and that we want students to know, not just as sort of vocabulary items on a multiple choice test, but we want them to truly be able to apply them to a variety of important academic tasks: text analysis, interpretive discussion, and in particular writing. Okay, so again, this really usually sounds quite good to a lot of teachers who want to see that sort of payoff in terms of expressive use of new vocabulary and so forth. And this is an area that they really gravitate towards, and for good reason. What I would stress, however, is, again, as you increase the intensity of instruction, you're taking more time, you really can cover fewer words. So this makes a lot of sense as a strand of multifaceted word instruction, word meaning instruction. It shouldn't stand as the sole sort of vehicle for vocabulary instruction, because if it does, it means that we're not really dealing with the kind of huge quantity issue in terms of the vocabulary gap and the vocabulary needs of many of our students. All right, that said, let me get into, kind of this idea of teaching vocabulary for instruction. First, again, it's going to start with identifying sort of a very key small set of words that then we are going to really invest, perhaps an entire instructional year in, coming back to over and over again, to ensure that kids are really growing into not just the word meanings, but the nuance of the word meanings and how to apply them to the kinds of academic tasks that they're good for. Okay, there's three things I want to share with regard to this practically. The first is the word generation program. Now, that's not mine, or that's not my team's work. That's work from Catherine Snow and her team at Harvard University. It focuses on what we've traditionally called sort of general academic vocabulary. Those words that in theory should apply across kind of content areas or disciplines, and that we know, therefore, are going to be really important for kids as they go forward. Those are words like process and observation and analysis and so forth. Now, I want to throw out a caveat, because this is the elementary-oriented class. Those words are usually taken from what's called the academic word list. And one thing that list comes from an analysis of university-level content articles. So, those are for the most part sophisticated words, and I'm not sure how relevant they are for elementary levels. And people don't always understand that. And I talk to even sort of primary teachers or administrators who, have caught up in the spirit of academic vocabulary, and that certainly features prominently in the Common Core. And they want even primary teachers to be teaching this sort of general academic vocabulary. I'm not sure that's a great idea. Now, and here's why. I mean, we have several studies done more at the middle school level, like the 6th grade level, one by Noni Lasso at Harvard, where in my mind they really brought some good instruction to bear. They in essence did sort of everything right, and they did produce some significant gains versus sort of control classrooms, but they weren't that large of gains, practically speaking. So some great instruction and a lot of instructional and time invested, and really not a lot to show for it. To me, that suggests that there's something about the nature of the target of the instruction, in this case, these general academic words, that is fairly resistant in terms of kids, learning. So, and that was at 6th grade in middle school. So I think that should be a real cautionary flag down at the elementary level in terms of how much we sort of yoke ourselves to this idea of teaching general academic vocabulary. Some things are better left to our peers our colleagues up at the middle school and secondary level. And I think a lot of that sort of general academic vocabulary, this is the case. Now, on the other hand, the all list is divided into sort of 10 sublists by frequency. And, I think that at the first level, the first couple levels, you can see much more sort of that the words are more frequent and that, thus better sort of accessible by kids at the elementary grades. So what I typically suggest is, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and not think about general academic vocabulary at all. But I want teachers to be strategic and to not sort of disregard their common sense. And if you're looking at the all list or at general academic vocabulary lists, be strategic, make good choices, choose words that maybe fit a more sort of concrete category or something like that 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 you can sort of teach more easily to kids. Now, all of this is to say that there is the word generation materials, which start in 4th grade. They're targeting 4th, 5th, and then the 3 general middle school grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th. They're all available free online. There is a very active sort of website that provides videos of exemplars, classroom teaching, sort of talking heads like I'm doing, explaining sort of vocabulary instruction, explaining the program. I think it's great. I've been not very successful in getting sort of teachers to do that, like in my kids' schools, as they hit the 5th grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. So I, made my kids do, the word generation units outside of schooling. Yes, the poor children of the literacy professor. I know. But yeah, it's really cool stuff. Catherine's vision is that vocabulary instruction, particularly in these academic words, should really be sort of, embedded in sort of content study, in oral discussion and debate, and in argumentative writing in particular. And so you get full sort of lesson materials for largely the 4th and 5th grade units revolve around kind of hot button topics. Should kids wear social topics? Should kids wear uniforms in school? And a lot of things like that. At the middle school level, you also get those plus social studies and science units. So you get sort of reading texts, short expository texts. You get sort of prompts for kind of classroom discussion and debate. You get prompts for written responses. It's cool stuff. I can't believe that more teachers are not turning to it, at least, as you hit the 4th grade level. My wife actually uses the 4th grade units with her higher performing students in 3rd grade because we just believe in them, and she uses them to try and push those kids that are, let's say, high proficient on into the sort of above or advanced kind of level. So I'm going to post the sort of web review activity that I use in another class to give you sort of the web information for word generation. And you can, I really hope that you'll pursue that, especially if you are at the upper levels, or if, share it with your colleagues who are. Okay, that's one piece. The second is what we call, is aimed at teaching the connectives. I think this is an excellent set of words for this kind of teaching for application, because connectives are not meant to sort of be meaning-carrying words. They're meant to be applied and basically in writing. So here I'm talking about words like although, even though, however, or maybe phrases like in comparison, in contrast. There's been some research around connectives recently, and lo and behold, they show that, they are indeed important for students' overall vocabulary development. I tend to think that kids who can use these basically sound really smart as they write. And, I think in the end, that's what we want. That kid who says, although, oceans are filled with salt water, etc. Is a really, great way to approach writing. So we do this through what we call sentence imitation. Rather than sort of lengthily describe that, I'm going to post a sentence imitation PowerPoint lesson. You'll see that it provides some brief explanation about sort of words like although, or even though, or however. And then it basically uses a couple of although sentences and has kids imitate that. Then we've built in what we really like is a sort of bridging activity we call sentence sessions, where they take, it's one thing to imitate an although session and say sentence and read, although I like chocolate cake, I prefer ice cream, and then to sort of just directly imitate that and say, although I like ice cream, I prefer cookies. It is a different thing to use that kind of term and that kind of sentence structure in connected text. And so our sentence sessions, we usually ask the kids to, as just a short exercise, to write like a 3-sentence session about, sort of what, playing a sport outdoors in the summer. And one of those sentences has to be an although sentence or an even though sentence or something like that. And so it gives them a little bit of bridging practice at using these kinds of connectives, applying them in connected text. And then, of course, we encourage them to use those same structures and words as they approach, larger writing tasks, literal text analysis essays and things like that as they get to 5th grade. Okay, so so hopefully you'll check that out, and because we really feel great about what kids have accomplished in that instruction. The last sort of teaching for application piece I want to talk about is our character trait vocabulary. That's something I wrote about a decade ago, and have done with schools in Wyoming and really across the country. And we did in the McVip project, and every place we've brought it as kind of a tool, as part of a larger toolkit of vocabulary instruction activities. It has been the single favorite sort of activity of just about every teacher. And we've continued to develop this in ways that, and it is the quintessential teaching for application activity. We take a small set of character trait words at each grade level, 20 or 25, that we specify, and we say, hey, these are your focal points. Don't limit yourself to them. But over the course of the year, we want you to keep coming back to these 20 or 25 character traits. Words like courageous or valiant or despicable or malicious or those kinds of things, so that kids really grow into the meanings and nuances of these words, and most of all can apply them as they talk about and discuss the literary works they're reading, and as they write about them. So we've really been pushing the writing side of this in third grade, and I'll show you some of what that looks like. And then bumping up the level quite a bit in fifth grade. And you'll see, I'm going to put up a little video clip of our fifth grade set of girls, cute group of girls, preparing to write a character trait essay. And you'll hear them using the words that their class is sort of focused on in terms of character traits. And I think it's really quite impressive. And it's just one of those short clips from one of our classrooms. Okay, so look for sort of that kind of supporting material. All right, I can't believe how long that just took, so I'm going to sign off again, and then I'm going to finish this off with a short video on the word learning strategies.